Hey, what's up guys, Sir Emanon here, and welcome to another episode of Road to 1000 DuelingBook grading. So this is going to be day 2 of testing the Control Mekk-Knight Orcust build, and we're going to be up against Dinosaur today, which would be pretty interesting. As you guys can see in the bottom left, we are 1-0 right now with 119 rating. Luckily haven't had to skip over any games of people like rage quitting or things of that nature yet, so fingers crossed that it stays that way, because I want to try and incorporate more games into the series if at all possible, of course. But I did make a couple of minor changes to the build, as you can see right here. I just realized that I could probably just do this. That's easier than just putting up a screenshot. But the concept of the build is essentially the same. I just swapped out a couple of minor differences. Notably is the Call by the Grave in the main deck here. I figured it's good against Drytron and also good against just hand traps in general. That can definitely stop the build, since it is fairly normal summon dependent. And I also swapped out a copy of Nightmare Cerberus for a copy of Lib, which you guys did suggest. This can set World Legacy Memory, which is pretty cool, and also allows you to chain block with access code to guarantee that you get a spin in, which is cool. Because you can go chain link 1 Lib, chain link 2 access code, which is nice. And then finally, I swapped out Evenly Matched for Heavy Storm Duster, because I realized if people are siding Lancey against your deck, you kind of don't want Evenly. So this is kind of an adaptation from LCS builds that are running all trap cards. This is a great just +1 for any control mirror match. But with that being said, let's go ahead and just hop into the gameplay here. Like I mentioned, we are going to be up against Dinosaur. And interestingly, even though my opponent wins the RPS, he is going to actually opt to be going first here. So maybe trying to change Dinosaur a little bit given how the metagame has shifted, since of course Dinosaur has fallen off a little bit, although it did make a bit of a comeback in the Remote Duel Extravaganza this past weekend, which is pretty cool to see. But our opener is Gyusu, Ash, World Wand, Torrential, and Strike. It always sucks to open this card. Like, it's a card that I kind of want to bump to 2, but at the same time, I really just hate drawing Garnets. So I'm just going to keep it at 1 and just take the loss if that happens. But otherwise, this hand's quite nice, even going second. Like, just drawing these traps that are high impact going second is really, really nice to see. But our opponent is going first, of course. They start off with Lost World and Overraptor. They're going to go OV Chainlink 1, Lost World Chainlink 2. So we get a token, and then he's going to search for a copy of Baby. So telegraphing already had the misc. Which, actually, if you think about it, if that was the case, he should have probably done Lost World Chainlink 1, OV Chainlink 2. Not only to prevent this from being, like, Ghost Ogred, but also to just, like, maybe bait and negation, since this could obviously just protect. I mean, it only really loses to like double disruption, like Ash and Imperm, or like Ash Gamma. But those kinds of hand traps are seeing less play, specifically Imperm Gamma, just because like Imperm doesn't interact super well with like Virtual World or Drytron, apart from like specifically just Vanity's Ruler. It's also not great against Eldritch, so like Imperm's been dropping off a little bit. Same with Gamma, but that aside, he does have the misc anyway, so he's going to use that, and we are going to Ash here, of course. You know, that's like the primary choke point. And our opponent's just forced to pass, so we are in a pretty good spot, provided that we can just have our plays resolve. We draw a duplicate normal summon, which isn't great, but this is, again, not that bad, because if we do get hand trapped, we can use our traps to survive another turn, then go for another normal summon. So it's actually okay to see multiple normal summons, which is kind of contrary to a lot of traditional deck building philosophies. But we go ahead and normal summon our Gyusu. And the cool thing about this deck against Lost World, or any deck that can play Link Rebo, is that like, you can just invalidate their token, which is nice. So we're going to send a copy of Nightmare, and our opponent actually does just straight up scoop right here. So before he does, I just want to like mention what the line is going to be. So the line would be to go for Phoenix. You can make Link Rebo here as well, just to get engraved to prevent like future Lost Worlds. But yeah, Link Rebo into Phoenix to pop this by pitching the World Wand, and then you just go for the play from there. Like this can now send Symbol, and then you have Wand to be able to be more flexible. And you can set up pretty easily. So that is what the line would have been. It would have been a little bit tricky to OTK from this position, just because like this build doesn't play a lot of extenders. So like you really are just trying to like set up as best of a board as you can. But regardless, my opponent is going to just choose a scoop right there, because there is apparently just nothing else going on in his hand. And we're just going to straight up move into game 2. So we can talk about siding, of course, which I am going to continue to do. So here is the screenshot of my siding process. And you can see here that boarding a Lancia, not really too surprising here. And I decided to just put in Droplet, even though it's not the most amazing card, but I think it's better than anything else I could board in. I'm putting it here in case my opponent ends on like something like Dolka, which this would be pretty useful against. Like Dolka UCT would kind of be hard to out. So I figured that droplet might be a good way to ensure that like my plays go through. So that's the reasoning for that. Pankratops is also just a nice catch-all going second card. I didn't have a card to replace a third copy of Strike, so I just left it in there. You could argue that I could have left a Cosmic in for Lost World, but again, like the Link Hcabe kind of just solves that problem. So I didn't see it as that much of an issue. So that's it for the siding. Let's go ahead and just move on into game 2 here. If you guys are enjoying this video, definitely be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new here and enjoy this style of video. But we're going to go ahead and move on, and my opponent's going to go first again. So our opener this time is Symbol, Blue Sky, Purple Nightfall, Lancia, and World Legacy Memory. So this is quite a strong hand. We have Lancia, which is quite nice. I don't opt to shotgun it here because I want to make sure that I just don't auto-lose to Gamma. Because Dino is a deck that can still run that card. So I decide, even if he opens Extravagance, which he does here, it's not the end of the world as long as we can just stop his plays from resolving. So that's totally fine. So my opponent's going to go ahead and normal summon a copy of Oviraptor, excuse some of the background noise here, but he's going to add a copy of Baby again, so telegraphing the Misk. And then as soon as he drops it, we're just going to Lancia here, and I mean this is effectively the same thing. Our opponent is able to get some value off the Extravagance, but the important thing is just preventing our opponent from actually completely popping off, which is fine. So my opponent passes, and then we draw for turn. We draw an Ice Dragon's Prison, which is pretty decent. It'll help in the event that we don't get to close the game out immediately. But yeah, we drew more Mekk-Knight cards than we would normally like to, but we are going second, so it's actually still okay. So we're going to start off with a copy, or setting a copy of Ice Dragon's Prison, and then going for the Mekk-Knight Purple Nightfall. We can use that effect and search for a copy of Gyusu. So it's just nice to have more consistency cards, right? Because you have, purple to help out, and obviously the 7 normal summons rather. So you have a lot of really strong starter cards here. I opt not to go for the Blue Sky because I want to use the token effect of Gyusu first. So I just normal summon the Gyusu, and then use that effect, but he ashes it. So that ends up definitely putting a damper in our plays, of course, but it is expected. And just in case you were wondering, I actually did look back prior to recording this, and our opponent actually opened up with Ash and didn't draw it off Extravagance. So I know like that's possibly a punish, right? Is like letting the Extravagance go through and potentially drawing the hand traps like this, but in this particular case, he already had the Ash in hand. But we're gonna go ahead and just use the Gyusu token generation effect, putting a token to his board and to ours. We're gonna make a Link Hcabe, and we're just gonna try and recover as best as we can here. So I decide to just make a copy of Barricade Blocker so I can pitch the Symbol out of hand. This way I can at least get some value out of Galatea, because if I can get Galatea with a Crescendo set, that's pretty decent because we have Ice Dragon's Prison as well. So that's a couple of valuable interruptions. I get a Symbol back the copy of Gyusu, and then make Galatea. The reason why I'm okay with doing this, by the way, is that even though like you might wonder why I want to save this for maybe like a Gyusu follow-up next turn, we have purple coming back and we have Blue Sky, so we have no shortage of like Gyusu access. Plus we have the World Legacy Memory, so we just have so many ways to get to it. So I don't mind burning through the Symbol if it means getting more immediate resources right now, because it's going to matter more in the long term, just being able to survive. Because again, if we can trade favorably now, we have like one card ways to just start our engine. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and use the Galatea to shuffle back the Symbol. Opponent misclicked there, but we're just going to set Crescendo here. Yeah, Crescendo is like really strong, just because it's not only a hard interruption, but it represents a follow-up for next turn. And like that's really important in a metagame and a build like this where resource management is really important. So yeah, definitely the Crescendo here is a lot more valuable than like Babel. But we're going to go into battle phase and then go attack over the token. I'm not too concerned with trying to get rid of this Oviraptor because we have the Ice Dragon's Prison. And so like the goal here is to just banish the Misk and the Ovi. And then if my opponent has like more Dino follow-up, we can use Crescendo, and that will hopefully be enough to represent the end of my opponent's turn. So that's why I don't opt to go for Ding to send or anything. And obviously we have Crescendo, so we don't want to turn that off. Like we had the chance to maybe go Ding. Like we could have summoned Blue Sky and then search for another Gyusu and then go Ding to send and then go Galatea, but I know my opponent has Baby in hand and I want to make sure that the Misk is banished. So that's why like, I have to specifically keep this on the board, because if I clear it with Ding, then my opponent can just Misk, banish one, go for Archosaur, pop the baby that we know is in hand, and then just kind of keep going from there. And I don't really want to burn Crescendo earlier than I have to when I have Ice Dragon's Prisons, so I figure that it's better to just hold the resources here. And my opponent does draw for turn. We just go ahead and shotgun and standby phase, and my opponent just quits right away. But yeah, I'm going to show his hand, I guess, right here. So yeah, my opponent has some follow-ups, so obviously the Misk and the Ovi are getting banished here, but the Lost World Normal Summon Baby line doesn't really work because we have a Hcabe engraved, so as soon as he enters battle phase, we just go ahead and tribute the token away. So that doesn't work there. And then for the pill, we can just negate it. This is a activate once per turn. So, but I don't think my opponent has a way to get another non-dino. Yeah, plus he only has one of this anyway, but I'm just like kind of thinking if there's any way for him to recover. Plus he won't have like enough dinos for UCT. So yeah, no matter what, I think my opponent wasn't able to just play past what he knew was Crescendo and the Hcabe in Graveyard. But yeah, that's kind of the basic concept of the build, right? Is that you stop your opponent via like a hand trap, and then you try and board build. Even if you get stopped, you have traps to back it up. And then you can just go ahead and navigate, take favorable trades, and win the game. This is a much slower metagame that's resource-based, so you can afford to play cards like Ice Dragon's Prison, which is super strong in this format, and you have like Torrential and Strike, which are high-impact cards going first and going second, so I really do enjoy this a lot. And I'm looking forward to kind of evolving the build a little bit more before we just go for the final deck profile on Saturday. So hope you guys are looking forward to that. But that's going to do it for the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. If you did, be sure to leave a like as well as any thoughts or feedback in the comments. Subscribe for more informative and competitive Yu-Gi-Oh content. If you want to, you can follow me on all social media platforms or support me via Patreon or TCG Player. All the links in the description as usual. And until next time, I'll catch you in the next video. See you guys.